I'm John Mangini, and welcome to the first episode of On with John. And I have a very special guest to kick this series off, and that is Adam from Splendid Sports Cards. Adam, thank you so much for agreeing to be my first guest.
Well, this is an honor. I mean, to be on your first episode. I actually thought the name when you first texted me. I thought you texted me on the John. So, but on with John makes more sense. I get it now. Okay.
Yeah, I want this to be a little more raw. Um, and I guess you're starting it off that way with that comment right there. So good deal. I thought I would entitle this Rise of the Collector because, when you and I were at the National, it seemed like maybe collectors are getting back in charge and have a little more say than over the last few years. What do you say?
100%. I mean, now take it with a grain of salt what I say because that was my first national. So, I'm not one of these guys that's been to every one or even more than one. That was my first one. So that was my first impression. But man, yeah, it just felt collector E, if that's a word. Like everyone was picking up big cards and deals were happening. And man, it felt like a collector's convention for sure.
That was my second national, only my second one, but I could tell you this. I know for myself, I spent more money than the first one. I bought more stuff than the first one. Everybody I was with seemed to be spending more money and buying more things than last year's. And man, everything was hopping. And it seemed to me like the industry has improved. The hobby has improved. It's kind of like I don't know. I just feel like the collectors are getting back, finding their stride again. I think we had taken a back seat to everybody trying to make a buck off of us and flippers and the sellers. And you couldn't. It took forever to grade cards. You'd have to wait 18 months. They were jacking the prices up. I know when I went to SGC's booth, I mean the customer service was exceptional, and I got my cards back right away. Did you do any kind of grading or reslabbing there?
I did actually. I went to the CGC booth because I had about four slabs from a couple previous labels back with CSG where they had the green labels, and I love their slabs, and I wanted to get them in the new label, so I dropped off some reholders there, and I even dropped off a Tom Brady card that PSA doesn't grade, but CGC does. So I dropped one off there. I'm waiting to get it back in the mail. I didn't do like the get it back at the end of the show because I was leaving early, but I'll be getting them in the mail. And I actually graded a card with tag too. Tag grading. I left off a Larry Bird card with them. So I'll be getting that in the mail too. So it would just be exciting to get those new slabs in my hands and maybe do a video and review the slabs. But from everything I've heard, they're really, really nice.
So, what's your take on AI for grading?
I love it. I think it's great. I think I like the human aspect as far as hopefully they'll still review all the cards that go out to make sure there's no mistakes or any like obvious mistakes. But um, I love graded cards, but I feel like to have a real good future with card grading in the hobby, AI has to play a part. There's just too much. There's too much subjectivity. There's too much personal bias. I mean, the thing that's always bugged me is you hear it over and over, whether it's vintage cards or new cards. You can't cross over cards. Even some of the like I've heard Nat Turner, who runs PSA, he can't even cross over his cards. When you bring over a slab from like BGS that's gem mint, they never cross over to PSA, and vice versa. They're all biased. All the companies are biased. They don't want to admit that a gem mint card over here is a gem mint card with our company, and I never like that because that's total away from what it should be, which is independent grading, and
Yeah.
it's just right in our face. So I think we have to add an AI element to maintain some sort of credibility in the grading process, in my opinion.
So, do you think that all the grading companies will adopt that?
Yeah, no question. At some point, I wouldn't be surprised if a company like PSA at some point, if like a company like Tag gets big enough, they make some waves. I could see PSA trying to buy Tag and just bring them under their umbrella and, use their technology that they have, because it looks very good. So I don't think there's room for like even probably more than like 3 or 4 major grading companies, but what we'll probably see is as something pops up, PSA will buy them and put them underneath their umbrella.
Now, just out of curiosity, do you have a ballpark of your percentage of your collection that's graded versus not graded?
Yeah, I'm very, I'm probably like 90% now of my collection's graded. So I'm very heavily towards the graded cards. And yeah, it's when I was a kid, well, they didn't have grading, but at this point in my life with limited space, I graded cards just kind of they work better for me. And I'm a completely different type of collector than you. Not any better or worse. It's just I know you're more of a volume collector where you're looking to collect, one vintage card from every baseball set in history, which I love, by the way. I love that. I think that's the best goal I've ever heard of any collector. So I love that. For me, it's just I'm like a player collector, Mickey Mantle, Tom Brady, Larry Bird, Pedro Martinez, and I just go down those lanes and I don't veer too far out. Probably 90% of my collections are of those four of my collection are those 4 players.
Yeah. Now, from what you just said a little while ago with Tag and CSG, you're not particular to the grading company. Like I know a lot of people, they only want PSA slabs. Do you have a mixture of those?
I have a
Sounds like
mixture.
it.
Yeah, I used to have. I'm pretty much moved out of most of my BVG slabs. I had 2 that I brought with me to the national, and the dealers looked at those BVG slabs. Now they were Mickey Mantle cards in there and very good grades. They looked at them as if they were like they had the Black Plague on them. They wanted nothing to do with them. They were like, no, 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 I don't know,
Is
nothing
that
to do
right?
with them. So
Yeah,
BVG is not very popular.
an interesting phenomenon I've seen for a while, and I actually just saw a comment on a Facebook post today, is that people when you're trying to sell a card and it's in an older PSA slab, people are like, "Well, I'm not going to pay you top dollar for that. It's an old slab. PSA didn't grade good back then. They're much tougher now." Have you seen this new phenomenon where we're almost creating junk, like a junk slab era?
Yeah, yeah. The new labels they sell for more money by and large than the old labels. I have a lot of labels that that start with 0 certification number. They were probably the first label they ever came out with, first slab. So yeah, something about those. They're a little vintage now. Even the slabs are vintage. So I like having some of those in my collection.
Yeah, well, a lot of collectors spend thousands of dollars on grading every year, and some spend tens of thousands of dollars on grading every year. So, how do we know that 10 years from now, people won't look at these slabs and think they are junk? Like, what? I often wonder that because back then we were spending a lot of money on grading cards, and now all of a sudden it looks like we wasted our money if you got those graded back in the day. Do
Yeah,
you think that could happen? What do
of
you think the
course.
future of that is?
It's going to keep happening, and we're all suckers. I'm a sucker. Like PSA just had a reholder special, 11.99 a card. Send in all your old labels, all your old slabs, and they'll reslab them for you for 11.99 a card. And I actually did send in about 9 old ones, just because some of them had cracks on them and so forth. But yeah, every 5 years they'll come out with a new slab and a new label. It's got better security, better plastic, and they'll make more money off of it. So even though I'm one of these suckers, I completely see what they're doing. And yeah, it's just, I guess that's part of the lane I've chosen to go down. And that's what I have to do, unfortunately. If I want to, you don't have to do it, right? But, certain slabs I have, yeah, they wear over time. So in order to really like looking at them, some of them I do want to send in and get reslabbed.
Yeah, and we're just talking about, the state of grading, the state of the hobby. We're not saying it's right or wrong or having an opinion on that. It's just I find it interesting and kind of fascinating uh, because, sometimes you'll get a grade, you don't like it, you crack it, you resend it, then they come up with a newer holder, you need a new, you send it in for a reslab or whatever. By the end of that card life, you may have paid more for the grading than you did for the card.
Oh yeah. No,
which
go
is
ahead.
an interesting phenomenon. So I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you so much before we go any further for helping me start the Mangini letter. I've gotten some great feedback. I don't know if you've gotten any feedback on it, but why don't you tell everybody what you do for a living and how you helped me start that?
Yeah, so I've been self-employed for over 10 years now. I have a couple partners that I work with. We work together in corporate America doing, we started off in sales, and then that kind of merged into digital marketing for mostly small businesses. And along with that is email marketing. So, when you mentioned that you wanted to start a digital newsletter, that I poked my ears up and I said, "Hey, I'd love to help you with that." So I appreciate you working with me to do it. And when we were going to work together, you were like, "Well, I don't know if I should call it the Mangini letter because we're working together." And I said, "No, it has to be called the Mangini letter. I want your name on it because it should be. It's you have one of the most, if not the most extensive card collections I know I've ever seen, and many people have told me they've ever seen. So I'm happy to see you get your thoughts out there more to maybe even a different audience that maybe they're not on YouTube. Most people know you on YouTube, but I think this will open you up to a newer audience. So very happy to do it with you, and looking forward to getting more people involved like we have. And it's just been fun. I've learned something from every letter so far, so it's been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I learned from putting them together and from the guest articles we've had, and we have a one coming up now that's kind of an exciting article. When will that be being released?
Looking like tomorrow. Looking like tomorrow here for that one.
Okay.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, these guest articles. I mean, there's so many collectors out there that are so knowledgeable and have specialized knowledge, and man, it's fantastic. When I reach out to them, they can't wait to participate. And man, I'm just so appreciative. I wanted to start this to just, quick hit, educate, introduce sets, introduce players you may not know, and to feature the cards from my collection. So in most of the letters we're going to do, I will be showing cards that are in my collection. They're not generic photos. Some of the guest articles are going to have their cards in, but for the most part, it's a way for me to slowly show my cards and tell the story about that card set, about that player. And so when you reached out to me, I mean, I couldn't be more appreciative, and it's been great working with you so far. Now, let me ask you about this. We're talking about the rise of the collectors. One of the things I've seen in regards to that is all kind of new YouTube channels. Lots and lots of people deciding to jump on there and show their cards. What do you think about the current state of the YouTube creators? And the reason that I ask is, for me, it's starting to get overwhelming to keep up with. There's so many, and there are the different types of creators, right? You have the news people, the gossip people, the pack rippers, the breakers. So do you have any thoughts on where YouTube is going, where it's come to?
Yeah, I think naturally what seems like happens is, especially now, as like you said, there's so many people starting channels, which is great. But what you see, I think, is little groups form within that. So you can only follow so many channels and actually watch their channel. I've learned that over the 2 years now that I've been on YouTube. There's so many people I'd like to get to know better. But I had this like epiphany at the National, and it was like a moment of gratitude. I felt like I don't lose sight of the fact that within 2 years of going on YouTube, here I am at the National, my first one, and there's more people here that I want to talk to that I can talk to. There's so many great people that I've met so far, and I thought to myself, uh, don't take that for granted. Don't always keep looking like with my channel how I interview people. Like, don't always keep thinking about who can I do next or who new can I meet. Take a moment to appreciate all the people that you have met so far. And again, I've already met enough people that for one National, I couldn't even talk to everyone I wanted to. So, it's I think we get like that with cards too. We're always focused on the next pickup. But
Yep.
I had that moment with people too that I've met on YouTube. So I think what you have to do, at least me, you have to kind of almost pick, all right, well, here's my inner circle of friends that I've developed, and I don't want to dilute that. I don't want to shortchange anyone. I mean, there's people that I've met through YouTube here that, I kind of feel bad about, because I'll think of it, man, I haven't actually texted this person or followed up with this person in a while. It's been too long, because there's just so many more new people to meet. So that is a tough thing. And one of the things I'm going to be doing on my channel is, I think for a while here, I might not even bring on any new people that, like for my show 3 and 3 or anything like that. I kind of almost want to circle back with the 30 people that I've had on my channel so far and do another episode with them, a follow-up, because I'm more of that. I like to develop the relationship more than like, I was in high school. I wasn't the guy who was friends with every person in high school. I had a nice group of friends that I was very close with. And that's me naturally. Not everyone's like that. But I found over time that that's kind of my natural state and preference. So that's kind of what I think I might want to try to do here with YouTube. Long answer. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. I've always been the kind of person, I always had friends from all different walks of life. That's why, for me, I wasn't going to be a member of a fraternity or anything like that, because I wanted to hang out. I hung out with everybody, every different group, you name it. So I wanted to ask you, because of your profession mostly, and because you're a successful YouTube creator, one of the things with all the newer people coming in, and I wanted to kind of see if you had some tips for them on how to stand out. And I'll tell you, I want this to be raw and honest, this program here. And honestly, there's a lot of content that is becoming mundane. It's like, back in the day, I opened boxes and boxes of cards from the 80s and 90s. And it gets a little stale to watch those things being opened over and over again. I wonder if you have any tips and tricks, because, during the National, before the National, I saw at a quick glance in my feed 18 videos telling me to wear comfortable shoes. I mean, I just find it ridiculous. Like, we know to wear comfortable shoes. So sometimes content can be boring. And on this platform, on YouTube's platform, it's really hard to stand out, right? It's like, if you come on and you're going to Big Lots and Walmart and showing people that you're searching for boxes of cards, you might have 150,000 subscribers. But when you're just a hobbyist who goes on and shows their collection, you might have 100 for a long, long time. What's your recommendation to stand out for new people starting a channel, or even people that have been doing it for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to figure out what your goal is. What's your goal of starting a YouTube channel and putting yourself out there? If it is to, and there's no right or wrong path. It's just you decide what you want to do with it. If the goal is to, grow the channel first and foremost, get yourself out there, gain more followers, views, and all that. As my cat opens the window here, then there's a different path for that, which is it's a lot more time consuming. I think some of the channels that I've seen that, let's say in the last couple years have really grown and still are growing as far as subscribers and views, they put a lot of time into their thumbnails. They put a lot of time into their content, their editing. For me, that's not in the cards. I don't have, I could have the time, but I'm not willing to devote the time to my channel to do that. My goal when I got on here was to connect with people. What we're doing right now, and that's why I had that moment of gratitude. In a way, I was like, man, you did what you set out to do. This was like, anything else is gravy. My goal was just find one other person to be a friend that you could talk about sports cards with, believe it or not. And I've done that many times over. I've been so lucky that that's happened. What we're doing right here, this was my goal. So I'm achieving my goal right here. This is part of it. So if that's the goal, to make connections and, subscribers and views are secondary, then you should look to do these type of things, in my opinion, to collaborate, to connect with other people. more so even than just doing the video where you show cards. Those are great. That's fine. There's an audience for those and so forth. But if you are looking to make more connections, I think, reach out, because my first national was so rewarding because I spent 2 years ahead of time getting to know people virtually. I did a video where I said, if you haven't gone to the national, I highly recommend it. I wanted to add a caveat to that, which is, and it will be way more beneficial of an experience if you already develop some relationships through YouTube or even social media before then. If you go in cold where you're trying to meet new people at the national, you could do it. But for me, it was a lot easier experience already knowing so many people going in, before we had met in person. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. A lot of us collected, and I'm speaking for myself, collected in obscurity, right? And our families didn't really know what they were looking at when we'd show them. And man, being on YouTube with other collectors who know what they're looking at, and to see things that they have and knowledge that they share has just been amazing. And I can't even imagine going to the national having not been on YouTube and making all those connections ahead of time. It would have been nowhere near the experience that it is.
And with human nature, I continuously have to kind of take myself back to when I first started 2 years ago or whatever, and to remind myself, because we can all get caught up like, oh, I did this video and it got 100 views or whatever, and you might look at it like, oh man, why did not more people watch it, or I didn't get as many comments, or I haven't seen my subscribers go up. And whenever those thoughts enter my head, because that isn't my primary goal on here, is to always take myself back and just be like, remember when you started and you had no friends in the hobby, you knew nobody. Now, even if you get 100 views, that's 100 people that took time out of their day. Think about how busy people are. These 100 people, even if it's 50 or 10, those 10 people took time out of their day to watch your sports card video. Never take that for granted, and never lose sight of where you were when you started, because we, as humans, we always look for the next thing, and we get used to where we're at. And that's just human nature. But for me, I always continuously try to remind myself of like what my goals were and, where I'm at compared to where I started. And that keeps me grounded, and it keeps it more fun and positive too, because you can get locked into like, being competitive and looking at, why did this person's video get this and mine got that? Those are all negative, bad thoughts, in my opinion, that they'll try to enter your head, but you block them out and just focus on what you're here for.
So as a marketing professional, what is the phenomenon, do you think, with the gossip channels and the people that have routinely over and over again given bad investment advice? Why do you think that those are the most popular channels in the sports card community?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, human nature, where if you look at the checkout aisle at the grocery store, it's mostly negative stories on those magazines that sell. It's that's just what, the weakest part of us is attracted to, those, negative stories, people going at each other, reaction videos. And hey, I've been guilty of watching those myself. And again, I have to take myself back. And the thing too is, to make it into the marketing world, the business world. When I started off, there was always this saying in sales that I never liked it, which was all the bosses, the managers would tell us, if you're not growing, you're dying. If your business isn't growing, you're dying. And I always hated that, because I think if we take that into the YouTube world, if you look at that perspective and you think, well, if my channel's not growing, if I'm not gaining views or subscribers, then I'm dying. And for me, that is like a terrible way to think. And I never liked that in business either. I get it, stock prices go up based on growth and all that stuff, but no matter how much you make, it's never enough, right? And so I always look at it like, be grateful. You don't always have to keep growing if you don't want to. I heard my great buddy Dylan, Double D, he was on a show with Sammy Thunder the other night. I was listening to it, and he was talking about how he thought he wanted to grow his YouTube channel, but now he almost doesn't. he wants to keep it where it's at because he doesn't want the added responsibility of more comments and even potential negative stuff. You know, you've seen this, John. You have a good sized YouTube following. The bigger you are, the more negativity in comments comes in, and Dylan doesn't want to deal with that stuff. You know, so I think
Yeah, you know, I mean, you're right to a degree, but I think when you're just showing cards and stuff, I don't get any negative comments. It's when you give your opinion.
yes,
God forbid you give your opinion. You know,
yeah,
today in the world of social media, you know, we all have opinions. We all have a right to them. But if people disagree, man, they can come at you in a big way, you know, and a mean spirited way. Uh, it's just unbelievable. You know, in the old days where we used to have to talk to people one on one, you would never say that to somebody. And you know, in the old days, there would be repercussions to say those things to somebody's face, and you don't have that now. So I totally understand where he's coming from. As far as the comments and everything, you know, you touched on it earlier. Like it is truly special and a gift for somebody to watch your videos, and it's an even more special gift for them to go out of their way to make a comment. And I try to respond to just about every comment. Now, some of them are mean, and I'll ignore them. Some of them I don't understand. Sometimes there's even a typo that makes it not understandable point, and sometimes I'll ask for clarity. But I try to respond, you know, to all of them, because if somebody's going out of their way, I feel I owe that to them. Now I know you're on a limited time, so I just have one other question for you, and that is, if you were the king of the card hobby, what's the one thing you would change about the current state?
Whew. Um, you know, I think what I'd want, I think it has to be focused on, you know, ultra modern cards. Even though I don't do a ton of collecting of it, I think, you know, if you want the hobby to grow long term, I think that I don't know how I would do this, but I would love to see the card companies not mass produce cards, you know, to put out better products for all income levels and all, you know, all that. I think we just, you don't want to see mass production by Panini and these other companies, mainly Fanatics now. So I think, you know, if you can control that, you know, to make sure that the products they're putting out are products that are collector friendly and products that collectors are going to want to have in their collection for a long time, like game used cards instead of player never even looked at this piece of memorabilia in the card, stuff like that, you know, to make the products more collector friendly. I think, you know, that would probably be what it would be focused on. How I would do that, that would be tough, but
Yeah, you know, I think they should start doing the memorabilia, like attaching it to a specific game or something like that. These rookie card memorabilia patches, like jersey patches and stuff. I mean, these guys put it on, take it off. They're not even on the field, probably. We have no idea where they come from. I know there were some YouTubers, some collectors that I know that track down like old Jackie Robinson uniforms and stuff, and they won't certify it or tell you where it came from, but they could determine that, you know, it was from the Negro Leagues and a specific team and this kind of thing. Man, I don't know if you're going to put something in there. I don't know why you can't say where it came from. You know, especially like in that case, it came from, you know, Jackie Robinson's family, or his wife had given it or whatever. So you have provenance. But these rookie jersey patches that come out before they even stepped on the field, where are they getting these jerseys? You know, they're putting them on at a photo shoot and probably ripping it off, putting it on, ripping it off. That would be nice to change, to give a little more excitement, because I remember when memorabilia cards first came out, they were so exciting. You know, I had mixed emotions on it, and I'll get your feedback too. But I had mixed emotions. I'm like, you're taking a Babe Ruth bat or a Babe Ruth jersey and cutting it up. You know, you're ruining it. But then after reflecting on it, I was like, well, you know, there are these young kids and myself. I can't ever buy a Babe Ruth uniform or a game used bat. Like, that's out of my league. So this is a little way to give a little piece to children and to collectors. What's your take on that? And then we'll
I feel
wrap it
the
up.
exact same way. I think it spreads it out amongst many more collectors. So I completely agree with you. And actually, before we go, I wanted to ask you a question because the YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame has been making some rounds, some waves really. I don't want
Yes.
to, I don't want to take up too much of your time with it, but I wanted to ask you a question because this is going to be, we're a little early with all this, but when we vote, this will be the first year I've ever voted. I should have voted last year, but I kind of blew it on that one. But I'm going to vote this year. What do you base your voting on? Do you vote? We could probably do a whole episode on this, but when you vote, do you vote for, just who your best buddies are? Do you vote for who you think has the best collection? Is it, you mentioned comments. I look at that a lot, not just on my videos, but how supportive are they of other people's channels? Do they leave comments? Do they only leave comments on the big channels, or do they leave them on other channels? I mean, how much do they collaborate with other people, other things like that? What do you look at when you vote? I just wanted to ask you that.
Okay, I will be 100% honest with you. To some degree, maybe, buddies. To some degree, people who actively participate in the hobby, comment, and that kind of thing. But maybe that's like, out of the ones I can vote for, that's not everybody. First and foremost, even above those things, like those are kind of tiebreakers for me. First and foremost, do I love the channel? Have they been doing it a long time? Do I enjoy it? Do I think they deserve to be in? First and foremost. And then of course I'm gonna, give a little more weight maybe to my, guys I have a good relationship with, or people who have supported me. Of course, that's human nature, and I believe in always taking care of those who take care of you, number one. But first and foremost, are they a good representative of the community? Do they deserve it? Do they have a good channel? Do they put out good content? First and foremost. Jimmy Guns, I've been voting for him every year, and I'll vote for him until he gets in. I voted for him every year. And generally speaking, I have voted for the same channels until they get in. Like once I vote for you, I kind of stick with you unless you stop making videos. There are some people that I voted for and then they just fell off the planet, or they stopped making videos for whatever reason. I can't, in good faith, continue to vote for them if they're not even currently making content, right? So that's what I do. I don't care. I don't even look at subs, because the amount of subs you have, to me, your channel, that doesn't make your channel more enjoyable to me.
Right.
In fact, the channels that can trigger me the most, the ones I dislike the most, can be the ones with an enormous amount of subscribers.
Sorry, I just got one card I want to show you because I had to show it to you. I've never shown it on my channel. I agree with you that this is the greatest athlete of all time, and this is a strand of hair of Secretariat.
You're kidding me!
Look at that.
Oh my God, I didn't know that existed.
It was made by a company called Historic Autographs, Historic DNA. This is a strand of hair from Secretariat, the greatest athlete of all time.
Adam, I need to get that. I need to get one of those.
Not for sale on this one, but there's others out there. This one is numbered to 247. So there's others out there you could find.
I never saw that. What year was it made?
It was made in 2021.
Oh, wow. I got to get me that. I have a whole Secretariat collection.
Did you know that when they did the autopsy on Secretariat, its heart was like 3 times larger than the average horse?
I did know that. Yeah. Greatest athlete of all time.
Yep. Anyway, sorry about that. I had to show that.
I just have to say one thing before we go. He's moving like a tremendous machine. That will be forever etched in my memory. I have watched that race over and over and over. I've listened to the radio broadcast, the TV broadcast. Yeah, Secretariat. And a lot of people don't realize that he had one additional race after he won the Triple Crown. It was up in Canada, and it was a shorter race, and he won by 6 lengths. So he won that one handily as well.
Legend.
And a great movie. Adam, thank you so much for being on. I am looking forward to many, many more newsletters and really growing that. It's so much fun to do. And I thank you again for helping me get that rolling.
Well, thank you, John, for having me here. Again, it's an honor, and just thank you for everything you do. Appreciate it. So thanks again.
Okay. Thanks. See you, everyone. Tune in next time for On with John.